Welcome everybody to the Las Vegas Urban League CEOLife podcast, episode number 3. I am your host, Kevin E. Hooks. I'm the president and CEO of the Las Vegas Urban League. Very excited about today's subject matter. But before we get started, let me introduce the crew. First, I'd like to introduce Ms. Sabrina Cofield, Emmy Award-winning journalist, spokesperson, actor extraordinaire, mother of 2, and a registered Democrat. And as I say on every podcast, that matters because we're going to talk about subjects on both sides of the aisle. Say hello to everybody.
Hello.
And we also have with us, we have our other featured constant guest. Chris, talk to the audience for us.
What's up, Las Vegas? This is Chris Charles Scott, and I'm very happy to be here.
Finally, we got a new partner because Warren G couldn't be here today. We've got the Chief Operating Officer of the Las Vegas Urban League, Ryan Meyer. Say hello to everybody.
Hello, world.
Fair enough. Man, a few words. We're going to get into it. So check this out, everybody. Today's subject matter is going to be crazy. We're going to talk about all the craziness that's going on in sexual harassment at every level. We're also going to talk about, in our Where They Do That At section, we're going to talk about this brother who just walked out in the middle of halftime. I don't know about y'all, but I had a job once where I just walked out. I'm going to tell you that story when the time comes. And I thought I was doing something. But in the meantime, let's just get it started. As you may or may not know, Bill Cosby, the Jello Man, is next week is going to be sentenced. He tried a courtroom maneuver to get the judge removed so they could go back to trial and try again. But it looks like that didn't work out. He's going to be sentenced next week. And you know, the funny thing about Bill Cosby is he was convicted in April of sexually assaulting Andrea Constant. I'm sorry, Andrea, if I messed up your name, girl. In 2004, but more than 50 women came out with basically the same story. And this happened over a period of almost 20 years, which is crazy. 20 years of him being in power, a position of power, taking advantage of these women. It still seems to be going on today. The Me Too movement is trying to address it. Sabrina, what do you think about Bill Cosby? What kind of sentence do you think he should get? And how do you feel about the fact that he got convicted?
I mean, I don't know if life is even fair because I'm not.
It's 80.
I mean, I was going to say, I'm thinking it's going to be quick to the end. So, I mean, till the end. Throw away the key.
Yeah.
Throw away the key?
Throw away the key.
You don't feel sorry for the man? He blind
Not at
now.
all.
Remember, he blew
Not.
off his sight.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah. So he can't really sexually harass nobody now because he can't see him come.
So you can't have sex if you can't see?
Well, I can. You can't talk about me.
I'm saying, what does his sight have to do with his ability to sexually harass somebody?
Well, you know, he can't condom it. He can't slip the thing in the drink because he missed the drink.
Yeah, I think it would have to be consensual at that age. He can't really move. He can't really push. I don't think he can do anything without some help, right? So, but I agree. He's definitely has taken advantage of his celebrity status, and you know, he gets caught up. It's time. He's going away for life.
So, Chris, what you think, man? What happens if what happens if he gets probation and house arrest?
But do you think that he's going to see prison time? Do you guys think he's going to see prison time?
Listen, right now, everything I'm reading is 50-50.
Yeah. How could he not? How could he not see prison time?
Well,
first, he has the color that matters in the criminal justice system.
To go to jail.
No,
I was like,
to get out of jail.
What are you talking about?
He has
body.
No.
Green color is green. Okay.
I thought the color was black.
No.
He has money. No, green neutralizes your blackness.
Indeed.
I just cannot see him going to prison.
Yeah.
Why? What would be the justification?
I don't know if there would be a justification. I just don't think that he's going to go to prison.
Yeah, I'm hard pressed to see it too. I mean, I think he deserves prison.
Yeah, I think
but I've been around this criminal justice system for all my life, and like I tell people, I've been black a long time, and I know when people get off, what it takes to get people off, and what it takes people to get railroaded by the system. And he's on that side of the equation. When you got money where you approaching that billionaire money, you rarely do jail time.
But he's been convicted, so how would we go from him? I would think the money would have helped him not get convicted. But if he got convicted, then how is the money going to help him avoid the jail time?
But the criminal justice system still has to, after the adjudication process, they've got to lay out the punishment.
Yeah, so the judge can, he can just give him probation, they could suspend his sentence, they could do all kinds of things. So he definitely might not go to jail, but he needs to go to jail. I mean, they even let people out when they get a certain level of sickness or
compassionate release.
That's what it is. Yeah, compassionate release.
I mean, listen. They let the white boy off for being rich. He was too rich. He grew up so rich that he didn't really understand right from wrong. So they let the white boy off for being too rich.
Yeah,
for murder.
It was like affluency, right?
Yeah, they call it
affluenza.
Affluenza. Come on, man.
Sounds like
That sounds like
or something.
sinus infection. Some kind of cold chest cold.
Yeah, they might even have some clothes made after that.
You know, you bring up this affluenza and about having money, how that is a big deal when it comes to your sentencing. That kid in Texas who ran over like 4 people when he was a teenager while he was drunk, got off.
Was he white or black?
He was white.
Okay.
Not 3 or 4 months later, down at South by Southwest, a black kid ran over some people drunk at the South by Southwest Festival.
Oh, it's
black kid from Killeen, Texas. It was a wrap for him.
So that's my point. Is I get that green can help solve some problems, but at the end of the day, I still feel like he's a black man.
Yeah, but
I
if you get enough
still feel
money,
like
you
at the
become
end of the
real
day-
light skinned.
Right.
But she's still black.
You might start passing with the right kind of money. You can pass.
I
Bill
know.
Cosby got that pass money.
But Sabrina's got a point though, right? He's a black man,
Yes.
and she is a white woman. So we go a little bit. Yeah, I see jail time.
He still deserves it, like regardless.
no.
But I just
The question isn't whether or not he deserves it. When
It's
you
whether
got
he's gonna go.
you got away 50 times.
Okay, so
and the
regardless-
51st one you got caught. Yeah, you supposed to go to jail. I mean,
Supposed
But
Under
regardless
the
of that,
jail.
let me just ask a question, like a whole sidebar, then we're gonna move on to somebody else. How hard is it to watch the Cosby Show? I know they took it off air, but every now and again I run across it, and I'm like, it's funny. Like to me, Rudy coming down the stairs, lip syncing.
Singing?
Whenever I hear that Ray Charles song,
Yeah.
they both remind me about how sucky my family was. And how great the Cosby were. They were our family.
I'm like,
So that's the question. Does this whole situation take away from that?
From everything
the
that you
show?
did,
Because
right?
we all grew up.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Oh,
It does.
no.
But let me just tell
I
you
brought
what.
you into this world. I'll take you out. Like you could quote the show all day long. Like it's part of who we are.
No, the best thing about it was when Malcolm Jamal Warner's character, when he was talking about, hey Dad, maybe I'm just not meant to be the smartest kid in the room. Maybe I'm just meant to be a plumber. Maybe I'm meant to just be a hard-working family man. And Bill, he did the dumbest shit out of it. I was like, that is beautiful.
It's so
Because I was
good.
buying into it. I was
Such a great
Theo.
show.
I was on Theo's
I
side.
want you.
I was like, yeah, Theo, everybody ain't meant to be the best of the best.
Right.
It's like, that is the dumbest thing.
But even across racial lines, that was the last character on American television where the father was the patriarch of the family and the man of the household. After that, you start getting the Tim Allens, the dumb doofus dad, where the mother is the one who cleans up all the problems at the end.
Oh, no, let's be clear. Claire cleaned up a lot of stuff.
She did,
Yeah,
but
she was gangster with it. And listen, when she bought that painting with her own money,
Then she bought the pay with her own.
she was like, yo, I was like, yo, go ahead, Claire. Every brother in America wanted Claire.
Yeah, well,
And some
yeah.
sisters.
So how do we resolve that issue? His creative genius,
I know,
obviously, is.
That's a whole other subject,
You can't
but yeah.
deny it.
And even before
And I
that,
hear comedians
him
struggle with it.
being a
Comedians who
horrible
grew up
person.
idolizing Bill Cosby and his talent and the ability to make you laugh and be clean, which for a lot of comedians is like the holy grail because it widens your audience, and they're struggling with how do you recognize and remember his genius without coming off as if somehow you support his behavior.
I'm just a little bit older. I love the Cosby Show, but but Uptown Saturday Night Let's Do It Again.
Yeah.
Those have got to be some of the classics.
Yes.
I mean, I love the Cosby Show.
You're right.
I had to be home at 8 o'clock to see that, but I have watched Let's Do It Again I'll watch that now. And it's out of date, and it is, speaking of sexual harassment, it is, it is out of today's culture. Yeah, it's out of today's culture. But it is so funny. He's a super talent, but good men can do bad things. I mean, that's just what happens.
So I guess the bottom line is, you have to make your own individual.
I don't know if I would say good man. I don't know if I call him a good man. I say talented men do bad things. Creative genius is good, but a good man is a bit of a like. I
don't know why. I don't know why this feel like one of those plays on the chitlin circuit. Good man, do bad.
Come down to the Tulsa Civic Center.
I went to see this play called "The Good Man Is Hard to Find," and it was literally like that. I was like, okay, yeah, all those chitlin circuit plays are the same thing, man. All right, yo, we digress. Listen, okay, so the bottom line is, I think individually we've got to come to our own decision about how we're going to receive or not receive the work that he's going to leave behind. Because his legacy, while it's going to be primarily in history books, he's going to talk about how it ended, there's still going to be a legacy of great creative work. I mean, Fat Albert, honestly, man, like Fat Albert is one of the greatest, momentous occasions in entertainment for black people in the history of entertainment,
And I wonder if that's why for him, it's hard. I am a feminist, and I am heartbroken by his story. Yeah. But some of these, Harvey Weinstein, all these other stories, I'm not heartbroken by that. Right. Because I think maybe they've had, I don't know. But just, his story breaks my heart because he has created a generations of,
quality,
beautiful work.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so look, since you brought Harvey Weinstein up, let's talk about Harvey. So Harvey Weinstein, after spent 30 years sexually harassing, sexually assaulting, sexually abusing women in the industry. More than 80 women were victims of this guy. Right now he's on trial for sexual assault. It's criminal charges. But you're talking about a culture in Hollywood where this was accepted. Bill Cosby for more than 2 decades. Harvey Weinstein, 30 years. And some of the things that he did, we're going to have a conversation that's going to be kind of tough right now. And it's just me as a man, and I can't come off as insensitive, but it's not my intent. So let me preface this by saying, I want to have an uncomfortable conversation and still be able to walk out and people know, okay, Kevin still cares, loves everybody, he understands that we're in a difficult situation. But if you call my sister or my niece or some of the women I grew up with up to a hotel suite to have a business meeting, and you open the door in a bathrobe, it's not going to end like some of these ended. And I'm not blaming the women who were assaulted by this man for staying in the room. I'm saying, what's the psychology that separates a woman's spidey senses from going, I'm not going in there doing a cost-benefit analysis of, but this is my opportunity to get a job, and I've been in this industry for 20 years, toiling away, waiting tables on the side, and I finally get an invitation to Mecca, and I walk in, and this fool is naked and has a robe with nothing under it. Like, what is the psychology and the challenges? I know women face this crazy reality every single day, but I want to know what makes a woman my sister, which she'd have punched him and kicked him and left, versus some of the things like some of the women, that are listed, the Ashley Judds of the world, that dealt with his crazy, and then were assaulted by this guy.
Well, if you look, since you're talking about the entertainment industry, and you look at the history of it, right, and the sexual assault that is rampant throughout it, I'm just wondering if that's something that you just had to accept came along with the industry that you were in. Right? Because if this has been going on for 20, 30 years, and these men have been doing this for 20 or 30 years, then how do you as a woman navigate through this industry knowing that most of the men, or a lot of the men that are in power, and most of the people in power are men, are going to put you in some type of compromising position? Do you just quit the industry as a woman? How do you navigate that?
Well,
Well, first of all, let's start off with it's got to be more than 20, 30 years. It's just the other people,
Right.
the other guys are already dead, and so they have legally not.
Right.
And so we will say that it's been going on since the beginning of the industry, and the entertainment industry, and what I'm going to also put the media industry, because you got Matt Lauer as well. You know, people will come into his office and he's taking a shower, and he comes out of the shower with his robe on, and he's like, but it's 10:30 in the morning. I just got to work. You know, so those industries also, I don't know, they quantify women just based upon how they look.
But how complicit are men and women who are aware? Listen, you can't do this for 3 decades and people not know about it. So how complicit are those of us that were silent? How complicit are those of us, men and women, who sat there knowing this was going on and allowed it to continue to exist?
We're very complicit. We're very complicit on that. What's the saying? The only way for evil to prevail is for good people to sit back and do nothing. 30 years people knew about this, and not quietly knew about this. This was open. Like, people would warn people, hey, look, Harvey's kind of weird, you know. When Hillary Clinton was first making her run against Obama, getting ready for the 08 or the 07 primaries, people warned her, do not take Harvey Weinstein money. Like, this guy is going to come out that this guy is a creep. But it's you almost feel like you're fighting a losing battle. Like, I can't speak for a woman, but I can't imagine trying to get my career off the ground knowing that this is the prevailing culture. What am I going to do to fight it? I bet I won't even have other women who come forward and fight it. And I think that the reason why it's coming out now is why everything is coming out now. Like, you can't, people aren't taking this anymore. Like, and people feel like they have platforms, and people feel like they have people who will come out and support it now. But, I mean, victim shaming is still a thing.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely gonna get in there. I think some of that's going on with the Kavanaugh situation, but stay on the Harvey Weinstein situation. Now, you talk about some of the women. They talk about how they couldn't even get a job after they turned him down and all that. Like, you know, and Sabrina, you're in the industry, and one of the things you and I have talked about is, you know, after spending 15 or 20 years, which there's no overnight successes in Hollywood. Tiffany Haddish started doing comedy at 16. Like, people think she's overnight success. And I can go down a list of people that Sam Jackson toiled away for 25 years before he got his first hit. All these people. So imagine that's all you've ever wanted to do has been your passion. And you're locked in a room with this hideous man. And then basically he's saying, you know, if you watch me masturbate, you get this role of a lifetime. If you help me masturbate, that's an untenable.
And if you don't, you're now blackballed. So the 20 years that you've worked to get to this point
situation.
is erased, and you're done.
Yeah. So how do you handle that? Like, you know, is it? I know it's a constant struggle, but you know, which also gives you the varying. You know, some women saying the hell with it, ain't worth it, to some women going whatever it takes. Because I personally know of stories, given my 20 years in Hollywood, of women who agreed to have the experience for the opportunity. So you say what, Ms. Caulfield?
I mean, I think it just goes back to what we're saying. You've spent 15, 20 years, or this is something that you've done your whole life, and you're working and working and working, and you are constantly, on a daily basis, put in these compromising situations, told that you have to do something, asked to take off your clothes, asked whatever it is, and it's like, you're holding your ground, you're trying to have some type of moral compass the whole way, but I don't know, I just feel like after a while it starts to just tear down at you, and and if you're so close to the thing that you've been working for 20 years, and it's like
but the minute you say yes, that adds fuel to the men who's like, yo, that's just the game, baby. You gotta play the game. If you wanna be in the game, this is how it goes. I know a lot of agents, directors, executive producers who honestly, they're jerks and they're assholes, but they'll set up and say, that's the game, baby.
But 10 years ago, how do you as one woman fight an entire industry? So yeah, the men are going to say that's the game, but as a woman in that particular position, in that hotel room that night, to process how that one person who you haven't had your big shot yet, you don't have a platform, are going to fight an entire industry. Or maybe it's, let me do this now, like you're acting, right? Let me do this now. Let me get to a position where I can say something, where I do have a platform, where I have a bigger voice, and I can reach an audience and tell about my experience to hopefully at that point start to alleviate it happening for those who come behind me. I don't know.
Well, I think getting blackballed after you've been a success is worse than getting blackballed before you were a success, and it's more difficult then. So that's a lie to yourself, but the lies start in the elevator. Because when you there's a choice: open, I'm getting off this thing, or 22nd floor. Open, 22nd. But when you match 22nd floor, that decision is already made.
What decision? No, you can put yourself out there, go all the way out there on that ledge.
Right.
If you're going to be out there dolo, but go on out there.
Yeah, no, once you...
Go on out there.
There's a decision. Okay, I think my stomach hurts. I just can't, I can't do this. But on that, the decision is already made by the time you ring the doorbell to the
What
phone.
if you've made that decision 10 times prior? Right?
And
Didn't get the role, didn't get the
other
date.
people got ahead,
yeah.
and then you saw it, and you watched it.
I'm not justifying them, but I just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and paying rent, and that is, and when you're self-employed, it's tough out there. But you gotta hit open.
But listen, let's be very clear. I think in most industries, in the hierarchical reality that is most industries, if you get a chance to get to Mecca, you're from the financial industry. You get to push that button, and on the other side is Warren Buffett.
Right.
And all you got to do to get Warren Buffett's good graces and get a few of his billies is, as a man, and I'm not, everybody don't clown me talking about Warren Buffett again, that's all I'm saying. But since we're talking to a man, you push that damn button, and you said you made the decision to go in that room, and you're willing to do whatever it took, and you get on your knees.
Well, and it doesn't even have to be about sex, right? It can be any moral compromise that you make, whether it's
but we talk about sex.
Money,
like, let's be clear. We talk about some sexual act.
I'm saying to get to where you want to go. Many of us, men or women, have been faced with some type of moral dilemma.
Right. Yeah.
But
you have to make a decision whether or not you're going to push forward.
But I'm just saying, it's easy to talk about that woman pushing that button 22.
Right.
But now let's make it this man. Right. In your industry, and it's Warren Buffett, it was the holy grail.
Yeah,
and now you got to push. Let me tell you, the thing is, we're all playing on the margins. It's like it may have happened to her, but I'm gonna dance through this and I'm gonna get the role and not have to do something.
If you were 27,
when I was 27, and the way I thought. I'd have matched 22.
You'd have been like,
it's decision time. You go open to 22. Open to 22.
Bam.
22.
I can't pass. No, I'm not passing judgment. But because if for even a couple of $1 million when I was 27, just to have a client that was of that stature.
You push 22, and a lot of these women are younger.
Yeah, now, Harvey Weinstein in a robe, that ain't gonna ever happen. But
that's not your industry.
That's right.
That's
not my industry. But
I can't imagine Warren Buffett in a robe is much more advertising than he would be. It's about the industry, not the person.
But Warren Buffett's robe come with $2 billion in each pocket.
Harvey is like, I could have it.
Warren Buffett's robe got, when you get $60-70 billion, that's a whole different kind of robe.
22nd floor. You push the button.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So, but what's crazy is as we talk about Warren, jokingly about Warren Buffett, but more about Harvey Weinstein, we go into like Les Moonves. Like recently, Les Moonves was fired, and I spent a lot of time in TV. Les Moonves was like God in Hollywood.
Oh God!
They're saying bigger than
everybody knew
Harvey.
how crazy he was, but he was so successful he got a pass. What was the thing you told me the other day? When he did Murphy Brown, which is coming back, and he said, what did he say about the one?
Can we say bad words on this show? Can I say that?
I'm gonna give you a pass.
It's on the internet, right?
Yeah, he was reported as saying, "Why would I cast her if I don't want to fuck her?"
I mean, and can you imagine the millions? Like because I've been I worked, ABC was a client of mine, CBS was a client of mine for a long time, Showtime. I walked those halls and I watched these minions follow those guys around. And if he said it, you better believe there are 5 other men who followed him in those executive positions who said it to people coming up as well.
Because they see him get away with it.
Well, more importantly, they believe that that is the embodiment of the personality required to be successful.
Okay.
Right.
Like, those are the guys that the reason why you got guys come up who curse out their staff and yell and come in is because their bosses did it to them and their boss was successful. So this is why it's continued to live on itself. But still, it doesn't. I mean, I'm very happy, and I'm on record as saying there's going to be some innocent men who fall in the Me Too movement, but rightfully so, because so many years we spent ignoring the claims and allegations and challenges that women face in the workplace. So if a small percentage of us innocent men fall victim to this process, it's going to happen, and we deserve it.
And it's every industry, and think of all the women who haven't said anything. Right? I mean,
Right.
it's multiply times the people who have. And I was just reading an article about a female artist, a black woman in the South, 40 years ago, goes into a job interview with a guy, and she has heels on, because it's a job interview.
Right.
And he asked her, how fast can you run in those heels? Because I'm going to chase you all around this office. And so it's that daily stuff that women, and it's time. It's time.
Yeah, Kevin, the idea that there's going to be some good men or honest men that are going to get chased, we're all complicit in some form or another.
Mark Cuban, right?
Yeah, I'm complicit, but listen, man, I ain't sexually harassing nobody,
Right.
brother.
Yeah, no,
But is there something to be said about being complicit, knowing that it's happening, seeing it happen?
I guess what I'm saying, my complicity, my willingness to accept me being complicit ended the minute I became woke in the space. The minute I realized what we were doing, because then I stopped participating and I stopped allowing, and I'm the first one to check me. Even when I was in corporate America, I'll be the first one to check you if you did something, because I learned my lesson early on. Fortunately, I'm 21 years old working at Walmart. I got into a challenging situation, and after the break, I'm going to tell that story. We're going to go to break. We'll be right back. Everybody hold on. Hey, welcome everybody. We're back to the CEOLife podcast, coming to you live from Las Vegas Urban League in the city of North Las Vegas. I am your host, Kevin Hooks. I still got my crew with me. I got Mr. Ryan Meyer. Say what up.
What's up, America?
I got Mr. Brendan Cofield back in the game. So Brendan, say what's up.
Hello.
I got my man, Big Chris. Say what up.
What up, Las Vegas?
I love it.
And North Las Vegas.
And North Las Vegas.
And Clark County.
Yeah, and Clark County.
And
Hey, listen. So I was right before we went to break. We were talking about sexual harassment. When I was 21, I worked for Walmart. I was a co-manager at a hypermart in Kansas City, and we were changing out the shelves for the to go into the Christmas. So we're changing out the shelves in my departments. 2 young ladies. We were working overnight because that's when you did it when no customers were around. We're doing it. I get a call over the loudspeaker saying, "Hey, Mr. Hooks, can you please come and help us, in our department?" So I show up, and they're having trouble putting a shelf in. And one of the young ladies says, "Hey, Mr. Hooks, we need help putting this shelf in, and we heard you have experience making big things fit in small places." And I laughed and I said, "Yeah, I'm real good at that." And I put the shelf in, and I went back to my office. 5 hours later, my manager, the store manager, calls me in, and I'm charged with sexual harassment. And I was like, I'm 21 years old. I'm standing on my square. I'm defending me. I'm like, yo, she said X, Y, and Z. I just responded. And he goes, you know what? Regardless, you're the manager. It was actions unbecoming of a manager. And any impropriety or anything that makes it seem like you participated in that, you're the guilty one. After that lesson, you ain't never ever had to worry about me.
What were the results of that?
So they did the investigation. So they decided, this was Kansas City, they wanted to send me to Conway, Arkansas to be a co-manager there and finish my training so I could take over a store. And I was like, my one response was like, yeah, basically. It's gonna get me exiled to Siberia, and so I quit. And it was a valuable lesson learned. I mean, you know, store managers, what people don't know about Walmart store managers is, back then, a store manager would make 5% of the first $1 million profit as his part of his salary, and then 2% of every $1 million profit thereafter. So you got Walmart store managers who were making a lot of money. And I was on track to be the youngest store manager in the system. And I walked away from it. So sexual harassment, I learned that a long time ago. So now we fast forward 15 years later, I'm in Hollywood, and you know, and I run across situations like that. I'll be the first one to check the dudes. I'll be like, dude, let me explain something to you what sexual harassment really is. And I think there needs to be more people, more men in particular, to own our complicity. Is that a word, complicit? What's the word?
Complicity.
That's close enough.
We're gonna go with that word.
Yeah, if it's not a word, it's new, and we
But the city
can.
of Las Vegas,
we gonna take it down.
Las Vegas Urban League, that's a new word.
That's a new
For
word.
those of us who, complicit, compliant.
We have to own our compliance.
Yeah, I don't think that's it.
No.
Anyway, listen. I failed basic puzzle making, a lot of English courses, so I'm gonna keep it moving. But anyway, so I think when I think about Les Moonves walking around the halls, you know, it's just as effective to be that leader who walks around the halls and goes, no, you can't speak to that young lady like that, or no, you can't speak to him that way, or no, you can't not promote him because he's a member of the LGBTQ community. Like, for a manager to do that, the people watching him and seeing that person successful, they're going to follow that lead as well. So we want to be successful, and all we're doing is following those that we see as successful.
No, exactly. Miss Cooper, and a lot of you know who that is. That's is my mentor.
Miss Cooper is a pioneer in the Urban League movement. She worked for Ron Brown and ran the Washington, D.C. Urban League for many years. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, and she's a mentor of mine, and I remember when I got one of my internships, and you know, I went, you know, I was running into the office all suited and booted, and I was telling her about the first day and about how that this receptionist was really nice and did it. Right. That's not how it works, right? If you're going to be on the executive track or management training track, that's not how this whole thing works. You cannot talk. This is not how our operation. She used more colorful terms, but that's where I guess I learned that you don't eat and whatever. You don't do all that stuff. That was the way I was taught. That, you know, this isn't a way that you do how you operate among people that you work with. There's a big city out here for you to operate. You just say, why? What's her thing? Why? Why get yourself in trouble like this? Why?
All the gin joints in all the world. Right? Like, yeah. I feel like one of those.
She was saying,
right? Yeah.
She's like, well, hers was like, why are you?
So listen. I think I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I do want to bring Mark Cuban into this conversation because they did this incredible investigation. More than 2 decades with Mark Cuban, the environment that he created. They interviewed more than 215 current and former employees, more than 1.6 million pages of documents and emails through this interview to find out that it was just basically an animal house run amok in Mark Cuban's business. Like, it was literally, like, women would come to work and literally wonder, is today the day somebody's gonna grab my rear, touch me inappropriate on my breast, try to have sex with me in the hall, or try to kiss me in the hallway. Like, literally every woman would go to work with that in their mind. And Mark Cuban, and I will say this, good old boys network, actually, you could see them in a room and him literally going, because he was fined basically $10 million. He was like, you can't call it a fine.
Right.
Basically, what I agree to do is I'll donate $10 million to a charity, which is 4 times what the maximum fine can be in the NBA.
Right, so he wasn't fined.
No, he wasn't.
That he decided.
He decided.
Because 2.5 was the max.
But think about this: you get to decide your punishment.
Especially if you're a billionaire.
And you're a billionaire. What's $10 million?
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, to him, that $10 million that he's going to spend would be me spending $100 at Capitol Grill.
Did the report indicate that he knew of the culture?
So it was inconclusive, but the implication is that he didn't know. but there's no way to not know. I'm a
He
CEO.
didn't know, but he did keep somebody on
But it's
staff
right.
that
Right.
had domestic violence and all
Right.
these things. So it's like,
And listen, and you
it's
don't.
again about being compliant,
How
right?
about
He
this?
kind
Well,
of
he was-
skirted the issue.
He
Right.
he did definitely skirted. The guy
No.
was the
Hold on,
president
hold on.
of basketball.
Let me make sure we do the mic too. The other thing is, if I walk in my offices, there's a lot of things goes on in my offices I don't know. We got 7 offices around the Clark County basin. If I walked into one office and I saw a used condom on the floor, I got to ask some questions. Right? I got to know what's like. Somebody got to
What you
explain
want to know?
something
You know
to
what
me.
happened.
Give us context about that condom. No, give us context. Like, what was the condom on the floor?
I don't know. It's the report. It talked
Oh,
about
this was in the
report.
That happened with
Yeah,
Mark.
Mark
He
Cuban
saw-
walked into one of the offices one day and there was a used condom on the floor. Like in their effort to find out whether or not he knew or didn't know, one of the things came out and he talked about it. And he's grilled, and I didn't really see his response other than
It was very tearful.
yeah.
So, yeah.
But
Very
he
emotional.
he stepped over a used condom. Like you can't not know something's not right in your business if you walk unless you run a back alley in South Central. Like, I don't understand why you think it's normal to have a used condom on the floor.
I think there's another question. Was he just unresponsive to HR's all the claims? Was it delegated to somebody else and he didn't deal with HR at all, or did no one mention all the people?
I guess I just find it, I find it untenable that those are the questions that we're asking. Right? The dude walked over a used condom.
He's
Can
like,
we-
go back
Yeah.
to the used condom.
You know, also, I learned early in my career that HR is not there to help you, the employee.
No.
They are not counselors,
No.
right? They're there to protect the bottom line.
Protect and
of
indemnify
the
that
business.
company.
Yes,
That's exactly right.
Yes. So I remember early in my career, I'm going to go to HR and tell them how I feel.
Yeah.
You know, that's the worst thing ever to do.
But there were complaints, though. There were multiple complaints. But at some point, HR goes, "Hey, bruh, we got a little situation here. There's a line of women outside that could come. You know, how much money do we want to keep spending on paying these women off? You know, sooner or later they go like, this is starting to cost us a lot of money on payoffs.
Right. But let's talk about the other side of this equation real quick before we get up. And that's going to move us into the Justice Kavanaugh conversation with Christine Blasey Ford. So I heard Marcellus Wiley. For those of you who don't know who Marcellus Wiley is, Marcellus Wiley is a former Pro Bowl defensive end, I think. Played for 4 or 5 teams. Great player. Now he's a co-host with Jason Whitlock on Speak for Yourself, a morning sports show. And I heard him tell a story. Marcellus Wiley was dating this young lady while he was in the NFL, or in his early days. And they're upstairs in his house, and she's yelling and screaming at him. And so he said, my spidey senses told me it was time to exit stage left. So he says, they had been yelling and screaming for a while. He walks to the front door, opens the front door. She's still upstairs. The neighbors are outside, and you hear, and the police are walking up to the front door. And as they're walking to the front door, his girlfriend at the time is yelling and screaming, Marcellus Wiley, Pro Bowl defensive end, is trying to rape me. He's assaulting me right now. Please call the police. While he's standing at his front door with the police looking at him. And all they said to him was, get in your car, we'll handle this. And so the other side of this equation, when I talked about some of us innocent guys maybe being victims, is it's so difficult in this environment. And I'm not, woe is me, and so I'll own this. But I do think it's important for us at least to be able to give voice to the people that go, but there is such thing as a false allegation. There's a false accusation. There's such thing, and it happens more often than I think we care to admit. And in an environment where women are finally being free to be able to tell their truth and hopefully find some kind of peace through being able to acknowledge something that terrible happened to them, like what happened to Christine Blasey Ford, which is my segue into this Justice Kavanaugh situation. Look at what's happening to her. Against the backdrop of, but we don't really know what happened 30-something years ago in that room, but we do know that this isn't some last-minute Hail Mary that she threw up without corroboration. So two subjects, two conversation points. How do we address the fact that there are false allegations set against the backdrop of finally women being free to come out and tell their truth?
The first step, at least in this thing with the Judge Kavanaugh, is that I think we need to change our investigation and adjudication so women are better at that finding the false allegation than men are.
Finding it?
Yeah.
Enlist women to be like, yo, that shorty over there telling us a book. That's
right. We need to have women in the process more. Because
which is different because if you think about it, like right now there are 3 women on the committee that's going to be able to hear this if Ms. Ford does decide that she's going to testify, even though they're trying to stranglehold her, versus what happened during Clarence Thomas days.
Yeah.
When there was no women.
Yeah. Women just listen to things differently, and they know how women will respond actually. Right. And it's just like how, and my daughter does it to me now, she just starts tearing up whether or not she's right or wrong. She gets what she wants.
Yeah, well, it's time for you to get a mic up, Mr. Sexist. We trying to go the different direction from the sexism. Like a woman's escape path is tears, and so once they tear,
my daughter escape path.
Miss Cofield, can you please add some kind of intelligent discourse? Like, I'm going back to you. Look, you understand. We all understand. Let's just accept one truth. The more women in the process, the safer it is for everybody.
That was your point.
That was my point.
Let's stay on the point and ignore the rest. You are right, sir.
Thank you.
Right. So
I can get there. I just don't necessarily go right down the right path. The right path.
You got good intentions.
Right.
Wow. So listen, we got a president who's been charged with sexual assault or admitted sexual assault, been charged with sexual harassment by multiple women. He's nominated a judge who now has a sexual assault allegation on the record against him, set against the backdrop of men having never even met Mrs. Ford, saying, "Oh, she's mixed up." Like, no investigation, she's mixed up, she confused. I know this judge, judge, by the way, who I think arguably, you could say, has made it very clear he's willing to say whatever's necessary to become a Supreme Court judge. Never mind some of the allegations of lying in his past confirmations. The man comes out on national television when he's nominated and says, our president did the most thorough investigation in the history of Supreme Court nominee investigations. And I'm a registered Republican. I am the pink unicorn. I'm a black man who's a registered Republican. And I know well enough to know that Negro was crazy talking about our president did a thorough our president ain't never thoroughly investigated nothing. Any man who would have sex with a porn star without a condom on doesn't have any credibility with me whatsoever in any space whatsoever. I'm just saying. So
with no condom? I didn't know that.
Man, let me explain something. So listen.
Do you have something else you'd like to say?
I know I'm so digressing on this, but I get on don't let me get it. Like, cause I'm the one who's like, yo, you making the party in Lincoln look real bad right now, brother. And all my friends and fellow Republicans are like, well, yeah, we got our tax cut and we're getting deregulation. I'm like, the man is a menace. I get his tweets starting at 3 a.m. West Coast time that start to come in every day, and it's always about him. It's never about the country. And even when it's about the country, it's about what he did to make the country great. It's never just about that. So now we're dealing with this situation. And I guess my question is, should a man who's currently under federal investigation, is an unnamed co-conspirator in a criminal justice complaint, as well as allegations of sexual assault, nominate a guy who's potentially has a victim that, a person that he sexual assaulted in high school. Should we just stop all this?
No.
Or, okay, talk to me, Chris. What should we be doing right now?
Hey, he's still the president. And the powers of the president, he gets to nominate a Supreme Court justice. I mean, Our election put this guy in office.
But that's not unlimited.
We have to deal with the consequences.
But that's not unlimited, right?
But he's the president, and he does have the constitutional power to select.
To make yes, agreed.
So this goes to show. If I can make a quick plug, folks, vote in November. Like these elections mean something.
Right.
The Trump now, whether you like him or not, he is going to shape public policy from now to the next 60 years. I won't say 60. Let's say next 30 years, because he has two Supreme Court nominees.
He's only halfway through his term.
But hold on, can we just talk about
Hold
this?
on, Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Hold on. But I do think it's important to know. Number one, there's things called checks and balances, right? So Congress's job is to put a check and a balance on the president, which includes checking and balancing the nominees that he put forward. Number two, the other thing is that we're talking about lifetime appointments that happened when life expectancy was 36 years old. These people now live, they're on the court longer than we had an entire life expectancy back then when this was decided. So I think that there's some reasonable approach to this process now that includes acknowledgement that the founders never anticipated a 50-year term on the Supreme Court.
And these people they do have the option to retire and don't.
That's happened to one time in the last 2 decades or 3 decades?
Yeah, so that's where also the problem is that, okay, and I definitely want Notorious RBG to continue on the court, but she is 84.
Yeah.
That's a man.
Hey, you see her working with a trainer. Hey,
Right.
she gangster with
She more play.
She gangster with she gangster with
Her being,
no doubt.
Her being gangster does not mean that she should not retire and be in the OG neighborhood instead of.
You do not want her retiring before the 2020 presidential campaign.
That is true, but that does not mean that it is not
Right.
something that there should be some retirement age, or
It
at
speaks
least.
to his point of them serving way longer than.
I think there's a lot of people I'd like to see retire from the court, but I will say this:
All of them should be.
I understand the power, and still I understand giving them that kind of power, and the power comes from the fact that it's a lifetime appointment.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. I think there should be some norms that that just are standardized. Even though we have a president that comes in and runs roughshod over the norms, I'm concerned about the idea that we have a president whose staff, who were unelected by us, thinks that they get the right to shape public policy by hiding documents from him, trying to shape what information he gets, even and taking advantage of the fact that he's not going to be studied up and he's not interested in learning the information. So that's how they get around it. But I'm concerned at that because I didn't elect them. I don't want them making those decisions for me. And as much disdain as I have for our president and the choices that he makes, I want our president to be the president and have the powers of the president. But I also want Congress to do the checks and the balances necessary. And I want a Supreme Court that has the ethical makeup necessary for me to accept them making this. But a guy who comes out and says that our president did the most thorough investigation in the environment, we know that ain't possible?
Well, in this case, the president has the opportunity to do something that none of us expect. He has the power because it's from the executive branch to ask for this investigation.
And it's from the White House.
So because it's from the executive branch, the appointment came from the executive branch, he can have the investigation done of his nominee.
Yeah, but
what happened is that's what happened in '91.
He had the nerve to say
that even happened
The day they heard about Anita Hill, they reopened the federal investigation.
Right.
Into
in '91,
or it was there back then.
Within hours. It wasn't even a question. It came from the White House. We investigate. It's done.
But the president said that's not what the FBI does. Our president, the same president who said that Florence was going to be the wettest hurricane in terms of water. It's going to be the wettest in terms of water. It's going to be the wettest ever in terms of water. Said that the FBI don't do that.
So here's my question: is where do we go from here? Right. So we're talking about the Me Too thing, and it's like, what do we do? Our kids are watching this. I have 2 boys.
Great question.
So my boys are watching these men get in trouble, but also knowing that these men have gotten away with it for generation after generation after generation.
Here's
where
where
do we go?
here's where we go from here. We go to our favorite segment, where they do that at. Because so as you all know, as we move into the next segment, I don't know if you guys were watching television the other night, but in the NFL, we had an NFL quarterback walked in at halftime after being down, I think 28-0, goes or 28-6, goes in at halftime, takes off his uniform, takes a shower, and then walks out and retires. Where they do that at? He didn't fit. My son came to me when we were a kid. I had him doing jiu-jitsu, and it was my mistake because I was a martial artist. I was like, every fight in elementary and junior high goes to the ground. I want his first experience to be understanding how to handle himself on the ground. He signed up for a 6-month session. 3 months in, he wanted to quit. I'm like, bro, you can't listen. At the end of 6 months, Daniel paid his money, they bought the uniforms, got to know the instructors. Everybody know that I'm a jiu-jitsu aficionado. I got some skills. I've been on the mat a few times. Mm-hmm. You don't quit until 6 months is over. At the end of 6 months, you want to quit? You quit. This brother was making $5 million
but
guaranteed.
That's the difference. You
30
paid
years old.
For the lesson, so you were like, you got to see it through because I put the money out for you to do this. He's getting money.
So quitting's okay?
But I'm not saying it's okay. I'm
like,
I'm just saying you can't compare the two because one, you're paying money, so you're like, no, we don't get the money's worth. The other one, he's getting money. He doesn't care if he walks late, he still gets the money. Like, why not do half my job and still make the same amount of money?
He didn't know. When he retired, you don't get paid anymore.
Right.
And what about the other guys? They've been out there since March in training camp, OC, whatever those off-season.
So if your boy came to you and said like, yo, mom, I'm quitting, you'd be like, it's all good?
No, because I paid the money for him to do it, so you gonna do it because that's my money.
Well,
no, you can't.
Okay, let's go past us paying the money.
Right.
But they can walk out in high school.
It's a higher lesson. I get it. No,
So
you don't quit. You have a commitment.
So Chris, what you think about this, man? Chris, get in here, man.
There's a universal truth that we all can agree on as Americans. I've never heard anyone on this planet say, I love quitters.
Yeah.
I love people who quit.
I'm thinking, you know what?
I love people who quit.
Yeah, I live it. That's true.
There was half a job.
There was a million ways he could have handled that.
Right.
Going to the coach at halftime saying, hey, look, I'm not feeling good. I'm not feeling right. I think I need to sit out the second half. Right. There's a lot of ways he could have done that instead of dramatically throwing the peace sign at him.
It was intentional.
I mean, the Bills are the worst organization.
Yes, that was
this year.
And they got beat by 43-0.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they're frustrated or whatnot. Look, in my high school, my senior year, we went 0-10, man, and we were like, when we were like 0-8, we're like, why are we going to practice? we could have done nothing all summer, and still go 0-10. So it gets hard when you're like 0-9, and they still want you to run sprint.
So, baby, have any of you ever just walked out in the middle of like work?
No, but I mean, kind of. I like to make the joke that I used to chop firewood. Yeah. I remember that day.
That day.
I have a cousin, Kawan, who showed up his first day of work.
His name was Kawan.
His name was Kawan. He got a job at one of those kiosk places in the mall, and the guy was just basically running through the procedures and stuff. And he goes, "Hey man, I'll be back. I gotta run some errands."
No, I've never quit a job like that. But my secretary on payday, right? Now I'm not. There's no judgment on me, but
yeah,
she.
I had a very comfortable, happy work environment.
It was a comfortable, happy
work environment.
Well, yes, it was. And we supported all my employees, especially our females.
Tell
the story, right?
She got paid at 9:30. You got the FedEx package. She went to the CVS. I have not seen that woman again.
So to answer your question, apparently a lot of people will just walk off. I mean, jobs before.
Right, that's a term, walking off a job.
So my first summer out of college, I worked at this place called the Fine Airport Parking. It's an off-airport parking place. So you know the shuttle bus comes to get you.
Oh,
Well,
God.
I got hired on, and the money was the drivers. Like, so you had to have a commercial driver's license. So I wanted to save my check, my first paycheck, to go and then take the commercial driver's license so I could be a driver. So in the meantime, I had this job called a utility driver or whatever. Basically, you know, I made sure the buses were gassed and cleaned up, and then when people get their cars and drop off in the parking lot, they come through where they had to pay. I'd wash their windows and load their luggage. That was like my job. So I finally, save enough money, go get my commercial driver's license. I come back and go, hey, I got my CDL. I'm ready to drive. And she go, well, you can't drive. We hired you in this position. But when they hired me, they told me if I got my license, I could drive. So I'm stewing. And this is one of our busiest day of everybody coming back. I wait till it's a line of cars backed up.
Where they do that at? It's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They do that in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
And I dropped the little windshield cleaner, the little squeegee. I dropped it. And somebody's car door was open. The car was running. Luggage sitting there. I went to my car and drove off like I was doing something.
Okay, so let's not talk about this man.
Wait, hold on.
Everybody's got a story.
Wait.
About walking off a job.
So I walked off, and then here's the best part about it. But first of all, I was 19 years old. So this dude is 30 years old, $5 million. So difference is, so I walk off, and the funniest thing about it is I think I done ruined their business. Like, and this goes to show every kid listening, don't overestimate your worth. The next day I get a phone call, and she goes, we got your check for you if you want us to mail it to you, or you gonna come and get it. Don't say nothing about me quitting during the shift. Don't say nothing about, hey, we need you to come back to work. Hey, we want you to be a commercial driver. No. Hey, listen, you want me to mail you your check, or you gonna come and pick it up?
Right.
We good, you good.
And I was like, and honestly, like, this is how petty I am. I'm 48 now. I was 19. I literally, whenever I've been in Tulsa, I drive by there, I flip the place to bird. Just on general principle, even though I was in the wrong.
I was like, you were the one that walked off the job.
I was on the wrong, I still flip the bird every time. I mean, like, that place, I hate that place because they gave me a job in college and I quit.
Where they do that?
Where they do that?
All over the country.
Well, football is different because you have like this sort of hyper masculinity. You have this concept of team and brotherhood. Like, you're just not
love it when
winning.
Chris comes in and tries to bring another level of interaction. We in here telling jokes, and he's like, yeah, there's a higher level of...
Oh, it's just, I got my brother here.
Yeah, right.
And he is playing the...
You trying to off balance?
Trying to balance it off, right?
I feel like okay, so speaking of where they do that at, y'all heard the Maroon 5 just got picked to be the halftime performance in Super Bowl, in the next Super Bowl, in Atlanta. People have lost their minds.
Rightfully so.
Talk why.
This is just another example of the tone deafness of the NFL.
Yes.
The NBA does not have this problem. The NBA, they know their market, they know their audience. Like, you don't hear when they announce All-Star Weekend, welcome to All-Star Weekend in Los Angeles, where the halftime entertainment is going to be Hank Williams Jr. They don't do that. But it's the NFL that they're completely tone deaf to who their audience are. It's just crazy.
Okay, I have a question. I'm not a huge sports person, so let me just start with that. But don't they know their audience? I don't know ticket sales of Super Bowls, but I'm assuming it's not mostly Black people.
Well,
it's expensive.
So that's my point. Like, they do know their audience.
The Super Bowl is routine.
When you look at NBA
view,
fans,
it's the largest viewed TV show
and
in the
NFL
world every year, unless there's a World Cup final.
So they know their audience.
So they know their audience.
They know their audience.
Yeah, without question.
Well, the thing is that it came out last week that millennials now outnumber the baby boomers.
Right.
So, isn't it mean that your audience has changed? I mean, that is a tipping point.
Nike understands that.
What?
Nike understands that.
Apparently, if the NFL, their people aren't as good as Nike's people, is what we're saying.
So look, Vontae Davis shouldn't have quit. Maroon 5 shouldn't be performing at Super Bowl. Last question in the segment. it has come to my attention, and I've known this for a lot of years. For those of you who don't know, I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I went to college in Joplin, Missouri. I spent a great deal of my life in and around people who don't look like me. And going up corporate America, the ladder of corporate America, I was always one of one in the room. Question I have that we need to discuss is, white folk don't use washcloths when they shower and bathe. Can you help me understand why white people don't use washcloths when they bathe? Because I know black folk, my mom would have beat me half to death if she saw me get out of the shower just rubbing soap on me.
Yeah.
Can anybody share eating? Maybe we should bring some white folk in.
Yeah, I think it works for them though. Like whatever system they use works for them. Like I too spend a lot of time around white people,
right.
And I'm never like, man, you don't smell right. Like you smell gamey. But
You don't-
whatever they're doing,
You don't say that?
it's
You don't-
working. I think let people
But
have their system.
don't it feel dirty like just a rub
That's
soap?
very
soap?
sweet.
Just rub
It
the same
works,
soap,
yeah.
John.
That's very sweet.
So John take a shower using that rub bar soap, and then Julie get in and use the same bar soap, and then Frank use the same bar. Like that don't feel right to me. Like the washcloth is like a buffer between that. No.
Oh no, I'm pro washcloth.
Are you pro washcloth?
He's just saying I respect their
You just take
choice.
the right to not use a washcloth. So for those of you who don't know, my son's mother is white, and my son comes to visit, and I have his towel, his washcloth set, and the washcloth ain't never used. So I kind of feel like maybe I'm doing myself. I'm not honoring my parents and my blackness because my son don't use washcloth. Like I don't know how to address that.
I think you drop it.
Just drop it.
Hit you down.
At least
Because accept being a failure. I need my son to be pro washcloth. It took me a long time to get a pro lotion. And now he's 13, almost 14. This girl told him he was ashy one day. And he been pro lotion every
Pro
since.
lotion.
So maybe I should tell the girl
get a
that
girl
he don't
to
use
be
a
like,
washcloth.
you don't use a
Right.
washcloth?
I think
And you-
maybe you can come to a middle ground on the scrubbies. I mean, like the puffs.
Oh, the,
yeah.
Yeah,
little
the
puff,
loofah,
Yes.
boof.
Yeah.
What do they call
So
them?
don't buy any soap and just get the liquid. And I think he'll transition over without that, you know.
Yeah, does he have a
Put it
bar?
on the
Is he
head.
using a bar?
No, well, I think he has his boy
Liquid?
soap and she has a bar. Like he has like liquid soap.
Oh, so he uses the liquid.
Well, yeah, but it's just put it on your hand and do it. But still, it just ain't the same. Like a washcloth kind of, ghetto exfoliates.
Right, that's why I
Yeah,
said
that's right.
that. A scrub, okay, and you tell him that it's exfoliating and it's going to help his skin. That's what you tell him. So he,
Not be so ashy, and then the girl won't see the ash.
because eventually it's going to come to a head with a girl, and we
If-
can.
If he dates a black woman,
It's
it's
gonna
going to
come-
be a
it's
conversation.
and he
All right, Chris, I'm giving you the last word with it.
I got a facial yesterday and it was delightful.
Hey, I want to thank everybody for joining us on the Las Vegas Urban League CEOLife podcast. Thank my guests, Chris, Sabrina, Ryan. Hey, join in next time. Subject matter is always going to be crazy. We're going to have a national topic and the subject where they do that at. Thank you for joining us. Hey, peace out.